Microsoft just got a gigantic W because they are now allowing game developers to downgrade their Xbox Series S games. Now, this may seem weird as to why I'm considering this to be such a big W, but let me explain, because I think that this choice of allowing Xbox games to scale differently on the different parts of Xbox hardware, this is going to lead to more games, better games, and hopefully higher sales of their system in the long run. And I'm being serious. What's up, gamers? DreamcastGuy here. Hi, hope you're having a great day. If you could like this video and subscribe if you haven't already. Now, this video is going to sound negative, so please give this video a like and actually soak this in, because I want to explain why these tweets are already completely blowing up the internet, even though they sound bad. They are actually fantastic. Super happy to confirm that after meeting Phil Spencer yesterday, we have found a solution that allows us to bring Baldur's Gate 3 to Xbox this year, something we've been working towards for quite some time. Now, this is the head of Larian Studios, and I'm completely losing it because this is so great. Baldur's Gate 3 is probably the best game of the year. I mean, I already have over 120 hours in it in just like a couple weeks. I've been super addicted. On top of all my other reviews, I keep going back and playing it again and again and again. The game is truly a once-in-a-generation masterpiece. But there has been a severe hiccup, which is that if you're putting a game on Xbox, Microsoft has a very strict rule. Every feature that exists on the Xbox Series X must exist on the Xbox Series S. Now, this doesn't mean graphics. If you put something like ray tracing on the Series X or 100 FPS for like Fortnite or something like that, that does not need to exist on the different tiers of hardware. But now, essentially, they're allowing this rule to be broken. Apparently, Larian has done multiple interviews about the fact that essentially what's happening is that the Xbox Series S is way weaker. It is just a substantial step down on the memory aspect. It's not so much that it's like, completely destroying the generation, whatever. But the developers basically just said that this is not a 60 frames a second issue or a 30 frames an issue. They're basically saying because this is required to have the exact same amount of split screen co-op, we simply cannot make it on Xbox Series S and Xbox Series X. And until we solve that, we're not allowed to release it. This is so awesome. Microsoft is essentially saying for a big game, for a game that's this absolutely groundbreaking, they're willing to say, okay, the Xbox Series S version can still come out even if it doesn't have that split screen co-op. It's going to have all the improvements. It's going to have split screen on the Series X. Series S will not feature split screen, but will include cross-save progression between Steam and Xbox Series. This is so fantastic. I cannot even explain the size of this W. Everybody is basically saying this is definitely a freaking winner. Baldur's Gate 3 on 4K on my big screen Steam Deck when I'm on the go. This is awesome. W. This should have been something Microsoft allowed much earlier, but better late than never. Okay, so everybody is basically saying this is the right move. They should have allowed this. This is a time where Microsoft allowed them to make a change that on paper seems bad. Like, okay, this runs perfectly on PlayStation 5. Why are you having to downgrade it on the Xbox? I feel like that's focusing too much on the negative aspect of it. This is awesome. This doesn't seem right. I don't think that's what Microsoft promised when they unveiled the consoles. Some people do seem to be upset. I have seen some people saying, oh, wow, there goes feature parity. Rip the Xbox Series S. Personally, I don't think this is actually going to lead to bad sales. If anything, I think this is going to increase the sales of the Xbox Series S because the system is dirt cheap. It's obviously, the cheapest next-gen console out there. And I think more companies, if they are allowed to release different versions of the game on different consoles, it's easier to do. Like, all right, now we can actually release our big crazy game and do a downgraded version of the Series S, which means that's more sales for Xbox. That might be more games that come to Game Pass. I think that's going to lead to more console sales because it is a cheap entry point to this generation, even if it's not going to look nearly as good as a PlayStation 5 game. But this is so freaking cool. We are thrilled with this news. It's been a long time coming, but what's important is that Baldur's Gate will be coming to Xbox players because it isn't an exclusive. So this is them kind of pushing back. There have been now multiple games that were supposed to come to PlayStation 5 and the Xbox that are coming out extremely late because the Xbox Series X versus S dev cycle is just a lot longer. You're essentially making it for two totally different consoles that just both happen to be Xbox, whereas with the PlayStation 5, the all-digital edition or the disc edition of the PlayStation 5 is the exact same hardware. It's incredibly easy to put stuff on PlayStation 5, whereas with the Series X versus Series S, it's a much more arduous task. So there has been this narrative where if a game is out on PlayStation 5 and then it's not coming out for sometimes 6 months or a year on Xbox, some Sony fans have been saying this is an unofficial exclusive. And they've been pushing back on that. They've been saying Baldur's Gate is not an exclusive. It's on PC. It's coming to Xbox. They're now super confirmed the fact that it's coming relatively soon, maybe even before the end of the year. Man, this is awesome. In fact, everybody is just celebrating about the fact that this is just so good. This is too important of a game to let slip. Glad to see that compromises are being made. Now, this is perhaps the most interesting tweet to look at. MVG, Modern Vintage Gamer, is not only a great YouTuber and a good friend of mine, but he has made multiple Xbox games, multiple Nintendo Switch games, and multiple PlayStation 5 games. He's worked on a lot of hardware, and he has made a couple of videos talking about the fact that the Xbox is still strong. The Series S is weaker, but it's not weak. So he says, Baldur's Gate 3 is coming to Xbox. The Series S version will simply do away with split screen. As a developer, I have my own thoughts about this, but ultimately a good thing for consumers. So I think it's interesting that he sounds a bit conflicted as to whether or not this in the long run will be good or bad about being able to release a downgraded version of certain games on the Xbox Series S. But man. Now, I think the reason they're doing this is because Microsoft is talking about the fact that they have no intentions of releasing more Xbox Series consoles. There's a lot of talk right now that PlayStation is working on a PlayStation 5 Pro to come out next year. And I mean, honestly, it sounds like Xbox is okay just being behind on power. They're not as focused on graphics and multiple tiers. I mean, especially imagine if the PlayStation 5 Pro ends up being like $600. I mean, I have no idea, but basically they're saying this. This is an official statement that came out last night from Phil Spencer, the head of Xbox. I think we need to let the devs settle on this hardware and get the most out of it. But in terms of increased frame rates, increased resolution, I just look at what goes on with PC, with high-end GPUs, high-end CPUs, and it's not always about pixel count or frame resolution. I think there's lighting techniques. There's a bunch of things that go into what makes a game look and feel great, and we have a ton of headroom as an industry there. Now, he's doing some PR speak, but I think that what he's essentially trying to convey is the fact that the Xbox Series X and the Xbox Series S are still very young pieces of hardware. They only came out 2 years ago. There is a lot of room for growth. I mean, look at the beginning of the Xbox 360 graphically versus the end of Xbox 360 graphically, or the beginning of the generation of the PlayStation 3 versus the end, the beginning of the PS4 versus the end. Game developers get better and better at making games look good, and it sounds like the strategy of Xbox is to give you the system to play Game Pass on, to give you that option to play something, even if it doesn't look quite as good as a PlayStation 5 Pro. Honestly, I am considering this to be a gigantic W. Microsoft was able to read the room. They listened to developer feedback. Multiple people now have come forward and said straight up, the Xbox Series S is holding us back. But now it won't. This is spectacular. I hope this isn't just a one-time thing. Huge credit to Phil Spencer. I know I've harped badly on Phil Spencer in the past and said that I feel like he wasn't as focused on getting games out. This is amazing. This is a chance for them to say, hey, good games are coming. Even if they don't look as great, they are still there, day and date, playable, enjoyable, with an Xbox controller in hand. But what do you guys think about this? Is this as much of a W to you as it is to me? I have an Xbox Series X. I got a supercomputer that I've been playing the most this year. I've got a Steam Deck. I've got a PlayStation 5. I've got a Nintendo Switch. I'm just saying that as an objective observer, this feels like it is going to give a lot of extra momentum and sales to the Xbox if they keep allowing a little bit of wiggle room. But tell me your thoughts in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, give it a big old thumbs up, share with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. And please keep dreaming. Man, Uncle Phil. Whoa, nice work, brother. Now just keep making games look good on PC and I'll stay happy. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.